Hello, everyone. My name is Victor. I am the Occult Technician, and this is Mind War, Season 2, Episode 3.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Kill Podcasters Network, featuring The Heads, Piss Magazine, American Death Camp, Experience Paul Wincock, The Couch Philosopher, and Mind War, in association with No Production. Now, back to the show.
It's getting cold in the Mind War studios, folks. It's a good thing I have this wonderful hoodie from Victory Work Apparel to keep me warm. Check out Victory Work Apparel on my Etsy shop. You can find all kinds of great hoodies, sweatshirts, long sleeve tees, t-shirts, hats, and stickers. Any profits that are made through the sales on Victory Work are going to be put right back into this program, into the art that you see, and it really keeps this operation running. So I appreciate you visiting. And before we get started, I just wanted to give a big shout out and thanks to my friends over at the Kill Podcasters Network. You may have seen in my advertising for the new season of Mind War that the Mind War podcast has been picked up by the Kill Podcasters Network, home of amazing podcasts like The Heads, Piss Magazine, American Death Camp, CCP Mind Control with Paul Wincock, and IDK, and now home of Mind War. I want to thank all the great guys that work over at KPN, like my executive producer, Stone Fox Detroit, associate producers Tanner and Izzy, and friends of the show like Rain, Seth, Paul, all great guys. So check us out at killpodcasters.com. And when you guys need a laugh, when you need some entertainment, when you want to hang out with some friends, have that Friend Simulator podcast, check out all the great shows at the Kill Podcasters Network. So back to First Earth Battalion. Let's see where we left off, folks. We went through a lot of great ideas in the last episode. Again, focusing on becoming those warrior monks, these citizen samurais of the First Earth Battalion, as we work on creating evolutionary goals instead of being revolutionary reactors, right? Reacting to bad situations when they occur and then revolting against them. Instead, we are going to think 10 years down the future. We're going to think, for us, as this episode is being recorded in late 2023, we're going to start thinking, what is life going to be like in 2030 at the start of the next decade? What type of changes can we expect? Not only on the global scale, what types of changes are going to come through technology, any different events that may occur between now and 2030. Those are the larger scale changes. Not only are we going to prepare for those, but what the goal here, right? The goal here at Mind War is to become conscious evolutionaries of our own lives, grabbing the reins of evolution in our personal lives, right? Making sure that we are not just reacting to things as they occur and allowing those outside events to evolve us, or in some ways devolve us. Okay, so let's pick up where we left off on a page titled Pioneers. Okay, the pioneering spirit is not dead in America. Many of the Earth Battalion ideas are taken from the New Age. This small sample of New Age groups shows there is plenty of gold left in the hills of the mind, body, and spirit. The rush is on. Well, folks, if you've been listening to the Mind War podcast thus far, you have heard me, not just in the podcast, but throughout all of my art and all of my media, talking about healing the mind, body, and spirit, right? That is one of our goals here. And we can do that with some of these new age groups. And again, this was written in the 70s, folks. So I wonder how many of these different new age groups are still working. So here on the page, we see all kinds of different logos for organizations and their names. I'm going to read through some of them here. There's a lot of really tiny writing that I can't really see. But we have organizations like the Baha'i Faith, the New Dimensions Foundation, Macrobiotics, the Owner Builder Center, the Center for Release and Integration, the Biofeedback Center of Berkeley, the Integral Chown Institute, something called Gentle Wind. Let's see, what else do we hear? Aikido with Ki, DMA, Dimensional Mind Approach, the Berkeley Institute for Training in Psychodrama, something called Beyond Jogging. Oh, here's an interesting one. You Can Lose Weight, the Fat Liberation Society. Okay, there we go. The Brosnan Tortoise. All right, folks. Oh, one more. Let's see. Community Research and Education at the Day Spring Incorporated. I have no idea what any of these institutions are. At this point, I haven't researched them, so I have no idea if any of them still exist. I know Berkeley still exists. We hear about that, right? So it'd be interesting to see which ones are still out there and what kind of changes they've actually made. But the most important message that we take here is that pioneering spirit is still not dead, right? We are all still pioneers. Pioneers isn't just a term used in the past for people who traveled from one side of America from the east coast of America, pioneers that made their way west out to California, right? That's not the only pioneering spirit that was ever available. We are still pioneers today as we evolve into the future. We're ever evolving individuals. We are ever evolving groups, right? So, again, there's plenty of gold in those hills when it comes to healing the mind, body, and spirit. The next page is titled Language. Words are just one of a number of powerful languages. If you don't have a language to process a new set of possibilities, then you will never know where they are. So, the widest range of understanding comes to those who have the widest range of language. Those who, likewise, have the greatest range of response to a given problem, then have the greatest chance to respond adequately. Okay. So what is the author talking about here with languages? A wide range of languages. I don't think he means just the words that we speak and the different dialects that we speak. I think he has some different definitions, and they're in a chart here, so let's go through them. This type of language, that's the title of the column on the left, promotes this type of effectiveness, which is the title on the column on the right here. So, verbal words. They promote linear, descriptive, analytical, and incremental cognitive work. Okay? So, Our words are very descriptive, they're analytical, and they're incremental. And when it says cognitive work, that means we are painting pictures with our words as we describe things, helping get people to understand our ideas, the problems that we face, and the solutions that we have for them. Next, we have graphic models. These are dynamic, interdependent, synthetic, and holistic conceptual work. So graphic models, we hear that a lot now in the media when we're talking about coming up with solutions to big problems. One of the ways that we measure those problems is through graphs. One of the ways that we measure the problems that we're facing is through models, right? We hear about models being used with the environment, saying, you know, if this type of environmental concern continues, what will the future model be like? What will things look like in the future if we continue this way, or if we start to make some changes today, right? So models and graphs are very important for us to understand the situation that we're in, right? We can't create the best Aristos if we don't take that clear, positive, honest look at our life. Well, maybe not always positive. We have to take that clear look at our life, and sometimes that means recognizing the negative also. In fact, recognizing the negative aspects of our life may be more important, right? When you're first thinking about making those changes, seeing those negative things, understanding what they are, that can lead to making those changes, making the positive changes. But also, make sure you recognize those positive things that you already have in your life, because that will help you be motivated. Understanding that not everything is doom and gloom, not everything in your life is bad, that you have positive aspects of your life that you can work from, right? The next one is chronological net flow diagrams. These provide sequential, interdependent, time-based, and complex events or construction work. Okay, so chronological diagrams, again, you can use this in your planning for the changes that you're going to make in your personal life. Again, having that evolutionary thinking, what is life going to be like for us in 2030 when we look ahead? What is life going to be like for us 5 and 10 years from now? How do we gain control of our personal evolution and stop allowing evolution by outside events to occur, right? How do we take control of that change in our life? And one of the ways that we can do that is once we start to imagine, when we start using our imagination to create the new person that we want to be, create the new situation that we want to be in, right? Without imagination, folks, there is no manifestation. If you cannot imagine yourself being in a better position in the future, you will never manifest it. You will never get there. Imagination is the key. Once we start to imagine these things, once we start to focus and visualize our future becoming this better place, we can actually make our own chronological diagrams on how to get there. We learned that in season 1 when we worked through the book Mind War, where we actually look at the new potential, where we want to be in the future, the completed solution, right? And work our way backwards. That's going to be part of making your chronological diagram of change, right? Mathematic numbers, accounting, supply, money, and other digital resource work. Okay, so mathematics, numbers, obviously, a lot of that, first thing you're probably going to think of is economics, your money. What is your money supply? What are the limitations to the changes that you want to make based on your money supply? If it's not money, then it's resources. What resources do I have available to me, right? There's going to be limitations on those. So again, we add all of that into calculating as we work through, make our plan to achieve that Aristos, to make our plan to get out of our current situation and move into the next one, right? The next thing here is kinesthetic. Okay, I don't know if I said that right, but it is body controls, maybe? It is described as conservation, strength, energy, control, and other analogical work. All right. So if we're talking about the body, again, being healthy, being active, physically healthy. We learned earlier in the last episode that the mind and the body are not separate. They are one and the same, right? Our body and our spirit work together. If we allow our body to be poisoned by alcohol, drugs, fast food, if we allow our bodies to be poisoned by sitting on the couch staring at the screen all day, these physical poisons that get into our physical body then begin to poison our soul and our spirit. The next is corporate meetings and rituals. This promotes small group relations, corporate planning, and other work commitment to purpose. So again, the kind of characters that we're creating as we move through these self-help tools, the fun kind of earth-focused military ideas that are at play here in this book, First Earth Battalion, right? When we talk about these corporate meetings and rituals, again, as you start to heal, as you start to gain friends and look for other people who are in the same mindset that are healing also, you're meeting up with them, right? For your corporate meetings and the rituals, right? Not only are when you get together with your friends, again, whether it's in person or online, however you do it, it can go beyond just talking about the realities of the day that we have to deal with. And it can move into the spiritual, where you have your coven and you do your spiritual rituals and spiritual practices, right? I'm excited to hear about those things. If you're doing that, let me know. Let me know how it's going, right? Let me know what you and your friends are doing, what positive changes that you're making, right? What positive meetings and what it felt like to meet with other people and carry each other's baggage and allow each other to open up with your true feelings, right? When you do that, let's communicate it. That's going to motivate others to do the same. And then bonding, dancing, hugging, and singing, individual openness, and the development of unconditional love for other human beings. I mean, that is great stuff, folks. Good on you if you do that. The idea, getting out there, dancing, hugging, singing with friends, family. These are all great side effects of the work that we do, right? Again, a lot of what we're talking about here in Mind War as we work through these books are for our individual growth. But as we grow with individuals, our battlefield expands and we start to find other, comrades, soldiers in arms out there, our warrior monks, our citizen samurais who are healing themselves. Then we start to heal each other, and now it compounds. We start to focus on peace and prosperity, right? And if you're out there doing that, if you're meeting with others, if you are being open to the development of unconditional love for other human beings, let's hear about it, right? You can tell me, you can start your own social media and tell others, right? There's no reason not to propagandize when the good things start to happen. Again, like we've talked about in season 1, when you start to first make changes in your life, you may want to do them covertly. Do them behind the scenes so you don't ruffle too many feathers, so you don't attract too much attention. Because as we learned in last episode, when you start making changes to your unhealthy ways of living, and the other people in your life who were right there in those same unhealthy lifestyle choices, they're going to get upset. They're not going to want to see you start getting healthier because it's a threat to them. It's a threat to their addictions. It's a threat to their patterns, right? So you got to be careful about that. But once it does start to happen, it is infectious, right? Your growth, your positive change will start to, influence others around you. And that's a good thing. A good influence. Think about that. So much of our lives we hear about the bad influences that we're supposed to, avoid. Think about actually becoming a good influence. You can be a good influence on yourself. When you when you make a small positive change in your life, again, you're going to write that down. You're going to focus on it. And it's going to grow. That positive change in your life, you will be your own positive influencer, right? Promote yourself. Propagandize yourself, right? Be proud of even the smallest accomplishments that lead to better things. Next page. Uniforms without uniformity. Okay, so on this page we have a kind of futuristic looking uniform, colorful and functional, it says, with the big First Earth Battalion symbol on it. We foster individuality and celebrate the way all humans are unique. Costuming is becoming the prerogative of the individual. A culture will emerge that has all the richness of a tribal culture with the function required of high tech. The individual will shine through the uniformity. So that's really cool, folks. That is a fun and positive way of looking at the future. Because again, like we've talked about before, in some ways, today we are caught up in the conformity of individualism, right? We all think that we're individuals, but there are now countless categories that you would just simply fall in, I saw a video the other day about the different types of punk rock aesthetic. And the video went on for like 5 minutes. I mean, there was like 100 different categories of punk rock, clothing and style and all that stuff. But again, it all just ended up being, you just fall into another category. That illusion of individuality. Maybe we can break through with that, through from that in the future and actually be individuals. Right? Next page. We have a picture of what looks like an atom, right? The nucleus and the protons and the electrons flowing around it. Everyone in the First Earth is equally important in the eyes of the organization and will be provided for accordingly. Status is achieved by the skill and dedication with which you do your chosen tasks. It is not considered important that everyone move up in the organization, only that their skill level moves up. Leaders will be determined by those possessing group process skills and other particular attributes of a leader. So that's interesting. That really goes away from our current corporate culture, military hierarchies, things like that, where it's often more important for us to move up into the next position, whether we have the skills to succeed in that position or not is irrelevant most times. We think more about getting that next promotion than we actually think about the actual work that we're doing, right? And that's what leads us as a society and as a culture into kind of more negative realms, right? When people are only focused on the selfish goals of promotion, they're not even thinking about their job that they're doing. It might be very negative for the environment. Maybe it's negative regarding people's health and things like that. They don't care. They don't care that they're promoting poison. As long as they're getting promoted, making that money, all that kind of stuff, right? It has nothing to do with what's best for the society, the culture, the planet, for people in general, right? But we can move away from that thought process and say, we want to be the very best at what we're doing. We want our focus to be on our actual work and making sure that our work is important, that it is positive and healing, right? That is the very best for all of humanity, that it has positive aspects and is sustainable into the future, right? And that may mean not being on this hamster wheel of that constant promotion. That might not be your main focus. Think of that. Think of being in a job where your focus isn't just getting promoted to the next position, but instead accomplishing a mission, a goal, a project that you're emotionally connected to, that you feel happy to go to work every day because you know you're making a difference and you're doing something good, right? We can get there, folks. The next page. High tech and high folk. So we have a picture of a backpack here that says First Earth Battalion on it. And it's kind of silly here, but it has pouches for ginseng regulators and divining tools, dried munchie packs, night vision foodstuffs, and body vest music. So it's very cute. It's very fun to think about. Again, it gives us that fun filter that we can put on as we talk about self-help, as we talk about healing and moving forward. If I was to create my own First Earth Battalion backpack that I filled with all kinds of things, for me, for my spiritual practice, I would probably put in a set of my tarot cards, maybe some incense and my obsidian mirror, right? Maybe throw in a jar of mushroom powder, put my headphones in there with a copy of the Gateway Experience tapes and some eye covers. These would be my weapons of war, right? The healing war, right? These would be my weapons to go out and help people with. So instead of weapons of destruction, we have weapons of healing. Technology and human potential don't have to be adversary positions. We can use advanced machinery and advanced people. Likewise, the idealists on the right and the idealists on the left would do better for all if they worked on the same team. Get comfortable with combining positions and not choosing sides. This is the third wave way. Wow. Okay, folks. So we heard that phrase, the third wave, earlier. Didn't quite understand what it meant. But the author really just threw down the gauntlet for you out there that are listening. This might be one of the biggest hurdles that we have to healing. And that is those idealists who find themselves in the two-party paradigm of the right and the left, the blue and the red, right? The R and the D here in the United States. So ridiculous, so stupid. These artificial divisions, so unnecessary, unrealistic, right? Completely fabricated, falsified. They divide us. If they can't divide us on all the other range of categories out there that they try to divide us on, race, religion, gender, age, sexual orientation, if they can't divide us on all those, they're going to divide us into the left-right paradigm. What do you politically believe in, right? What if we couldn't be divided by any category? What if all of those categories, yes, not only are they real and do we fall into one, but we celebrate them. We accept each other for the categories that we're in and celebrate them. Instead of looking at them as these negative differences between us, we celebrate the fact that we are different, and through that celebration, we become one. We start to work on the same team. Uh-oh. They are not going to like that, folks. That old paradigm that the organizations, corporations, and institutions of our current day still promote, that paradigm of division, they are not going to like it when we start working together as a team. They're going to talk about that that's what they want to do. They're going to say that that's what they want to do, but they don't profit off of our teamwork. They profit off of our division. And it's time to let them know that they're no longer going to be profitable in that game. And there's a lot of ways to do that, and one of them literally has to deal with profits. If you are currently dealing with an organization, corporation, or institution that is doing everything that it can to divide the people, stop sending them your money, right? Find new corporations, organizations, and institutions that support the third wave. Next page. States of successive expansion. The challenge is to become a wide-band operator and make more frequent trips to each new state. Most folks stop at low-order reasoning. The worst become micronauts or stagnant. Okay, what is he talking about? Again, folks, we're going through this book together. After the first few pages, I decided to stop reading this on my own because I wanted to experience this book with you. So what are we looking at? We're looking at some sort of graph here. Along the left-hand side, we have a row of different columns here that say infantizing, becoming all things. That's at the top. Next, below that is multiplexing, changing characters. Below that is navigating, choosing our future. Below that is reasoning, sorting our options. Below that is belonging, working to fit in. And below that is functioning, using our equipment. And we see that in this graph, it basically says there's a shaded area that says where humanity lives. And the author is trying to say through this visual format that the majority of humanity lives in those bottom rungs, right? And he calls them micronauts, who are stagnant. Where we see the warrior monk has moved up in the graph into the higher levels of consciousness, I guess, right? So if we start at the bottom here, functioning using our equipment. So basically, I think what he's talking about there is like, hey man, here's the very basic tools that we have for our survival. And we're just trying to survive and get by. And that's fine. A lot of people find themselves in that realm, right? You're doing everything you can to survive and just make it day to day. When you're in that situation, it's very difficult to make changes, right? You might be exhausted and beat down, but remember, even in your toughest times, just look for those small, positive parts of your life. Focus on those. Imagine those positive areas in your life growing and expanding. And through our focus on the aristos, making small changes to our current scenario, we can move into better situations. Next, we see belonging, working to fit in. That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part. I think so many people are stuck on that second rung of the ladder of belonging. They do everything that they can just to fit in with society and fit in with whatever ridiculous cultural distraction that is out there. And it's sad because that's what stops us from moving forward and progressing forward and actually doing better, right? Because when we're more focused on, becoming the sports team fan or, what is the next movie that's out there, whatever. I mean, it's fine to enjoy all those things. I'm not trying to knock all that stuff, right? But if that's your whole goal, if that's your whole focus, is just trying to use the few limited tools that you have in your life just to belong to some category, some societal, situation, some cultural ideal, that's tough. Because now you're not even focused on what is best for you. You're simply focused on how do I fit in with the rest of the crowd, right? But if we move past that, then we get into reasoning, sorting our options. Now we start to look around and say, what aspects of my life are not moving me in a general positive direction, right? Am I spending too much of my limited funds on, say, video game skins for your characters, right? If you don't have a lot of money and you end up buying all these digital things for your video game characters, 10 years from now, because again, we're those evolutionary thinkers, we're thinking about the future, and you set your path up, right? And you say, okay, what is my life going to look like 10 years from now if I continue spending all my money on digital fake things that aren't real? And then you look around and you say, wow, my life is completely empty of real world things. But boy, do I have all kinds of digital stuff. I have digital shiny outfits and cars and all kinds of silly things that go on in this digital world. But folks, when the power goes out, none of that's going to matter. Let's make sure that we're living in reality too. once we take the time to use our reasoning to sort our options, then we are going to navigate, which is choosing our future. Like we've talked about before, evolutionary thinkers. How do we grab hold of the reins of our personal evolution to make sure that we become the character, the person living the life that we want to live 5-10 years from now? Multiplexing, changing characters. That is a very difficult phase. Actually implementing the changes, becoming a new character. An example of that, let's say, and again, not knocking anybody or any way of life, I'm just using this as an example. If you are someone who is a bombastic drinker and you spend a lot of time hooting and hollering with your friends, and it is fun. I've been there. I have been that person. Again, I'm not knocking it. A lot of cursing, a lot of, just acting wild, right? Well, there will come a time when you're going to make that change, when you're changing characters. And you have to say to yourself, you know what? Maybe I don't want to swear as much. Maybe I don't want to act as wild as I once did. Maybe I don't want to drink as much alcohol, right? Now, here's the hard part, folks. I'm not trying to sit here as some old guy, pissing on everybody's parade, right? I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer and saying, no more fun, none of that stuff. The reason that I'm doing this right now is because it wasn't done for me. I didn't have anyone out there as I was growing up, whether it was teens, 20s, 30s, right? I didn't have people out there talking like this. If I can help somebody who's younger than me avoid some of those pitfalls that I went through, so be it. That's exciting. That's the goal, right? And now that I'm in my middle age, I look to those who are older than me and look at the lessons that they've learned, right? Isn't that the best advice that we hear? Learn from other people's mistakes, right? There wasn't a lot of this type of talk when I was younger. There wasn't anyone out there really talking against drinking, against drinking alcohol. It was only promotion, right? And you saw it everywhere. Every organization, corporation, and institution was promoting alcohol and alcoholism, promoting smoking, promoting just insane sexuality, just throwing it in our face, the violence, all of it. That's what it's always been. And of course, that's entertaining. That's the fun stuff. Okay, sure. But anyone that was even trying to promote a different path, loser, dork, hippie, self-help, softy, whatever, they were just ignored. And that's unfortunate because there is another way, right? Again, one of the difficulties that I have, and if you see me displaying anger throughout my art, one of the big, sources of that is when I look back and think that things like psilocybin, magic mushrooms, have been criminalized throughout all my life, up until this very day. But my use of psilocybin and magic mushrooms over the last 2 years has been so healing. It's been so wonderful. It has taught me to be more intuitive, to be forward thinking, to be excited about life. And the idea that over the last 20 years, I could have been doing that instead of drinking alcohol frustrates me to my core. I am so angry with the organizations, corporations, and institutions that criminalized psilocybin and demonized psilocybin, and in its place promoted alcohol, the poison of alcohol. It didn't have to be that way. These occult principles that I'm trying to teach you, right? These things that have been hidden from us, they didn't have to be hidden. And trust me, folks, everything that you see me doing through my spiritual practice is being used by the highest elite people that run the organizations, corporations, and institutions right now. But they've used it for control. They've taken the power from these practices and used them for evil. And it's sad. It didn't have to be that way. They allowed greed and perversion and all these other things to overtake them instead of focusing on honesty and healing and growth and positive growth. But it is not too late. We see ourselves in a major transformative time in history. We are evolving right now, not only as individuals, but as humanity in a whole. There are so many things that are going to change over the next 10 years that are going to tell us what the future is going to be like. And if we work together now, and it's not too late, it's never going to be too late. If we work together now and kind of stand up together and say, we want to focus on healing. We don't want to be criminalized in all that we do. We don't want to be told that a natural substance that grows in a mushroom is somehow a criminal thing and that we should be punished for it. We talked about that earlier. We talked about that, I believe, in the last episode. That old paradigm shifting of this government of disciplinarians. We don't need that shit anymore. We don't need you to tell us what is right and wrong. Especially when we look at the people who are up there trying to tell us what is right and wrong. Right? We don't need your opinion. Because we look at you and your life and it's disgusting and we want nothing to do with it. We're building something new here, and it starts with the individual. It starts with each of us healing. Throwing off the old paradigm of these losers, man. We don't need them anymore. Seems throughout almost all of my life so far that the baby boomer generation has been in control, and they are so desperate to hold on to it that they are just doing everything they can. They will not let go of any control. And I'm not going to try to put everything on them because I know that all of this works together. We're all a part of what's happening. But that generation has been more destructive, more perverse, more addicted, more materialistic than any generation in all of human history. They are disgusting. And they need to be stopped. And their way of thinking needs to be stopped. And the fact that we see them corrupting younger generations today really worries me. Because it's those corrupted younger generations that will be taking the reins of power. And we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. Right? Not through revolutionary actions of violence. That's not what I'm calling for. In fact, the exact opposite. Evolutionary actions of peace through healing as the individual. Next page, Earth Battalion. A new class of humans is emerging who refuse to sink into the ever-pervasive cultural trance. A cultural trance is a collection of perceptions that cause the sleeping human to believe they have no power to change themselves or the world around them. It's exactly what we were talking about. Our culture, our society, when we see it sick, when we see it's poisoned, when we see it's degenerative, and yet we still barely can get up the second rung because all we're doing is focusing on belonging to that very sick culture instead of moving on to reasoning, navigating, multiplexing, and then becoming infinite in all things. The sleeping human, is that a perfect description of the people in your life and the people that you see on a day-to-day basis who seem to be in a cultural trance, unable to wake up to the realities around them, unable to wake up to the fact that they're being poisoned, right? Poisoning your mind, or polluting your minds, poisoning your bodies, and corrupting your souls. You may have heard that in my occult sermon called Burden of Hate, in which I said that I don't do this work because I love you. I do this work because I hate them. Don't get me wrong, folks. I love you all very much, and that's truly why I do this. But again, part of the fun, part of what we do here is creating these characters. And Victor, the occult technician, can at times in his occult sermons be very angry, very fiery, get fired up, right? But that's fun. That's part of this. It's part of the art. It's part of this 7-year art project. Next page. You can trace the value shift in the military. So again, this was written in the 70s. So let's see the different military categories that the author talked about back then. We had the professional soldier, guilty of being in service to the nation and his troops, usually at some risk to his career, is charged with telling the truth, even when it hurts, and giving the taxpayer his money's worth, really believes in taking care of soldiers and mission first. That's professional soldier. Versus the careerist, guilty of being in service to himself, usually at his peers' expense, charged with consistent weasel wording and fraudulent bean counting to cover incompetence and the facts in order to get promoted, really believes you got to take care of number one first, right? So is that kind of what we described earlier on? Going about your career with your only focus being promotion, not being focused on the work that you're actually doing. We need to change that mindset, and it's going to be tough because there's a lot of greedy SOBs out there, folks, and all they care about is going higher up in their hierarchy, right? They don't care about what they're doing or who they squash to get to the next rung, and that's a difficult part of life. That is a constant battle out there because you may overcome the current generation of people that think this way, but guess what? There's a new one right behind them. Next, we have the militarist, guilty of being in service to the service, usually at the taxpayer expense, charged with unconsciously pushing military programs and weapons contracts that exceed defense needs, really believes the nation should be called to depend upon the army, or should be called to defend the army. Okay, so the militarist, again, he's talking about in military terms. And again, please understand, military-industrial complex. I'm not coming against you in any way. I know you need to get rich. I know you need to keep working. I understand that. But sometimes maybe we can think about hammering those swords into plowshares and turning our billion and trillion dollar industries of destruction into billion and trillion dollar industries of healing. We can do it. It can happen. You can still get filthy rich off of making people feel better. Finally, the warrior monk, guilty of being in service to the planet, usually at the risk of being labeled a flake, is charged with continuously working on unrealistic concepts like world peace and brotherly love. Really believes soldiers can play a lead role in world peace. There's honor in being a warrior monk. There's honor in working towards world peace. It's honorable to have those type of ideals. But understand, when you do, you will be attacked for it. When you talk about spreading peace, brotherly love, compassion, honesty, helpfulness, when you get caught spreading those messages, you will be hated. If you wanted to do the opposite and spread, messages of hate and division and destruction, you would be promoted. They would give you more salary. You would become popular. They would love you for it. That's the old paradigm that we're stuck in still today. It's filthy. It's disgusting. It's unnecessary. It's greedy. And hopefully, that old paradigm is so riddled with cancer that there will be no way that it can survive. And hopefully, we are watching its destruction today. But it's going to take each of us as individuals to heal ourselves, and then in our little friend groups, heal each other together. And then that will grow. Next page. Actually, it looks like our next page is going to start us on chapter 2. So we'll go ahead and leave this episode where we left off there. So thank you again for joining me on Season 2, Episode 3 of Mind War. It's been so great doing this work with you folks. I've had a lot of good comments. People have been reaching out to me. I had a young man tell me a quick story, and I'll share it with you. He said, Victor, I went out to the bar the other night after work. I think he said it was a Friday or Saturday night, like most people do. Again, that's the paradigm. That's the culture we live in. You work yourself to the bone all week, exhausted, stressed, making someone else rich and wealthy. And you take the little bit of money that you made and you go to the bar to try to relax and you have some drinks. And he said, I went out again like I always do, had a few too many drinks. Group of guys were messing with me and they broke my phone and I ended up getting in a fight. He said, Victor, it was just a low point in my life. And he said, I had listened to a couple of episodes of Mind War. I heard you talk about making that change, understanding that you're poisoning yourself with your bad behavior. He said, I took that to heart. And when I woke up the next day and took that clear and honest look of what happened the night before, I realized that I wasn't a victim of those guys, but I was just as much of an attacker as they were, because I put myself in this position to be poisoned. I poisoned myself with alcohol. I wasted my money on the alcohol. I put myself in a position where I was in an atmosphere that is dangerous, with people who lose control. And he said I was sick and fucking tired of it, and I'm not going to do it anymore. He said, Victor, I'm at work right now. I'm listening to the next episode of Mind War. And he said, I just want to thank you. And folks, I cannot explain how much that message meant to me. If you're out there listening, if you're making these same changes, right, understand we are in this together. I am right there with you. If you need to reach out to me, please do. I got social media on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, X, right? Find my accounts. The links are in the bio. Reach out to me. Send me an email. Whatever you need. I'd be glad to chat with you. I'd be glad to have you set down your burdens in front of me, and I'll pick them up for you. I'll help you lighten the load. I've done it before, and I've had others do it for me. Sometimes simply sitting down and telling another person some of the things that you're dealing with just lighten the load, man. They just make you feel like you've been heard. They make you understand that the problems you're facing are not insurmountable. And if at this point in your life, I'm that only person that you have to reach out to, then damn it, do it. I got nothing else going on. I'm down here making this stuff. I'm down here doing this work for you. I'm down here making the art. I'm here having fun, right? And when I'm at work, I don't really do a whole lot at work, folks, to be honest. I have plenty of time to read your comments, respond to your messages. So please, again, if you need someone to talk to, reach out, right? If you're in a really bad place, make sure you reach out to a professional, right? Don't be afraid. Talk to your family, talk to your friends, talk to your doctor if you need to. I am not a doctor. I don't pretend to be one. I'm not a professional. I'm just a regular old guy like the rest of you, right? I'm out here trying to figure this out one day at a time. I'm out here overcoming my issues and my troubles and my struggles. I have them just like all of you. Okay? We are in this together. We're doing this work together. We are warrior monks of the First Earth Battalion. So remember, folks, harden your hearts and open your minds, because this is Mind War. Thank you for being here. Your friend Victor, the Occult Technician.